And hello, everybody. Welcome to Major League Meeples. My name's Ruel Gaviola, and I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for joining me. This is my new podcast, video cast, where I talk about baseball. I'm a board gamer. I love board games, but I also have a passion for baseball as well. And this is the first time I'm bringing on a guest, and there was only one person I had to have as a guest on the show, and I'm glad that he's here to be the first guest. It's my friend Marcelo Figueroa. Marcelo, come on in. How are you, my friend?
Hey everybody, I'm doing well.
Good, good,
Especially
good.
especially since the Dodgers won last night.
Exactly. So we're gonna just jump right into it. The Dodgers. Not that we're biased or anything, Marcelo, but I think they're the greatest team that's ever been put together. I think. Is that true or not?
I I had this discussion yesterday while I was hanging out at my local brewery, and one of the things that we all agreed on is that it's fun being the Yankees of this century.
Yes. Right. If I think about those Yankees teams back, especially in the 2000s there when they were just dominating the 99s season, late 90s, early 2000s, and everyone complained about them, and I may have complained too, but it's a lot more fun being on this side of the thing these days. It's amazing to watch the greatest ball player who's ever lived. It's a treat.
Well, I mean honestly, I was actually referring to the Yankees of the 20s and 30s.
Oh, the
Murderers
20s and 30s,
Row.
you're going way back.
Yeah, way back, right?
Nice.
When they won like what 8 World Series in a row, and they
Yeah,
won the pennant every year for a decade, and
yeah,
you had Ruth and Gehrig, and then DiMaggio, right? Like
yeah.
so, I look at the Dodgers now as very much like that team because I mean, look at right now, look
Yeah.
at all the stats. The Dodgers are number one in everything.
It's crazy, right? And okay, Marcel, let's be honest. So when the word came that we had signed Otani, did you think it would go as well, or I mean, has it met your expectations so far this season, or has it exceeded it, or is it not quite there yet?
I absolutely think that right now he's worth every penny that was spent on it. And I actually think that while people are, the Dodgers have their detractors. That's
Yeah.
fine. That's
Oh
cool.
yeah.
Haters gonna hate.
Yeah.
But at the same time, most of the time when people throw insults at me, it's like, oh, I hope that $1 billion is worth it. And I just keep thinking they're gonna make that $1 billion this year.
Yeah, right. It's already it's sort of like when Disney bought Lucasfilm. People were like, "Oh my gosh, you're paying all those billions of dollars." They made that money, and it's like an ATM machine for them right now. It's the Star Wars
Yep.
franchise, right? So I feel
Yep.
like the same way. The Dodgers getting Otani is just going to continue paying off for them. Business wise, it was a sound decision. But as far as the fans, I mean, gosh, we're getting to see some amazing, amazing baseball right now.
And I love the fact that him coming to the team hasn't lessened the shine on other players. Because like if you go
Yeah.
to the stadium or if you just listen carefully to the broadcast, right? Whenever Kike comes up,
Yeah.
everybody loves Kike no matter what,
Oh yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's his weird colored cleats or he's just got the great energy, but like I mean,
Yeah.
he's truly a fan favorite. People love him. I love him. I love watching him
Oh
play.
yeah, same, same. And like guys, our favorite player is Mookie Betts. Michelle and I love Mookie. We named our pug Mookie because of Mookie Betts.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, it just the way he plays the game, the joy, the love of the game that he brings to it. We're always gonna be fans. But of course, having Otani there is pretty spectacular as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Although on the flip side of Mookie, right, my guy is Max Muncy.
Oh
I
yeah,
just
yeah,
I love him on the hot corner. I
yeah.
love it when his home run swing connects.
Yes,
So
absolutely. And let's talk about that in just a second. Folks, we just jumped right into it. I forgot to introduce Marcelo Figueroa of Devir Games. I mean, we're just so passionate. We just jumped right into the baseball part of the show. Marcelo, just real quickly, for those that don't know, you can talk about what you do at Devir.
So at Devir Games, I am the sales manager for USA, Canada, and Asia Pacific. Because we have offices all over Latin America. Our home office is in Barcelona, and we have an office in Lisbon in Portugal, right? But the USA, Canada, and Asia Pacific is my domain.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And as you can see, folks, I've just thrown up Devir's site right here. We were talking right before we came on the air. We were talking about some of the games coming up, and we see the two that I'm most excited about are right there: Rock Hard and Cities. Marcelo, can you give us any information on when these games are coming out, and just a quick overview of what's happening with these two games?
Certainly. So Cities is our second Phil Walker Harding game. Dungeon Raiders, which came out in 2015, was our first one. This one, if you love Barron Park, also a Phil Walker Harding game.
Praise be.
If you love Barron Park, you will love this game. It's basically you're building a neighborhood within a city. So like there it shows Sydney, Australia. There are 8 different cities that you can play in, including New York, Rio, right? They're all over the place. And then what you're
Nice.
doing is you're creating a neighborhood, you're building out that neighborhood, but it's mostly a drafting game. There's 4 lines there that you can see. You can only draft from each of those 4 lines one time as you go
Oh,
around, and then you score. So you're going to play a number of rounds, and then calculate your scores based on how well, the very top line there, you see that there's those 3 cards at the top. Those are the cards that you're going to score you bonus points at the end of the game. And then there are conditions like that they're at the very top, like say for
mhm.
Sydney, those are 3 conditions that are unique to Sydney that you can also score points on as well.
Nice.
4 players plays in 45 minutes once you played
Awesome.
through. So this one is like it's really going to be our first big game of the summer. So
Nice.
that'll be in stores. I'm going to say about late June.
Okay, late June. Okay, so right around the corner. Actually, Becca Scott and I just talked about this game recently on Good Morning Society. That's our show we do every Wednesday, folks, 10 a.m. Pacific over on the Good Time Society channel. I'm a huge fan of Phil Walker Harding, and the Brothers Murph started doing this thing a few years ago. Anytime someone talks about Phil Walker Harding, they say his name. We say praise be. So Phil Walker Harding, praise be.
Praise be.
Huge fan. And you've got another game that I'm super excited about called Rock Hard. Can you talk a little bit about 1977 happening here?
Yeah, so this is Rock Hard 1977, and so let me lead with, and this is to everybody watching right now. Are you familiar with a band called The Runaways? And so because this game is very importantly tied to the Runaways through its designer. So from the Runaways, you got Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Lita Ford, right? You got her own career.
Yes.
The designer of this game is the original bass player of the Runaways. Her name is Jackie Fox. If you're unfamiliar with her as a designer, her name is Jackie Fox. She's also a 4-time Jeopardy champion, and she's also, after she left the Runaways, she became a very renowned contract attorney in Hollywood, and so she designed this game about becoming a rock star in 1977, which, just so you know, for the sake of perspective, she lived the life. So this game comes from a deep knowledge of the material, right? And so in this game, what you're doing is it's basically almost like a work-life balance kind of a game. You're playing somebody who has a day job, who wants to become a rock star, and you have to balance, like, okay, well, if you're staying out late because you're rehearsing or recording or performing, then you might wake up tired and miss a shift at your day job, but that's your only source of revenue. So if you start missing shifts, then you could lose your job. Or if you're working too hard to get all your money, then that means that you're not rehearsing and you're not recording and you're not performing. And so it's a resource management game in that respect of work-life balance to become a rock star. So, and we're doing a big launch of this at Gen Con.
Yeah,
So,
I yeah,
and Jackie will be there, and Jackie will be there. And
yes.
and I want to put this out there to everybody who's going to be at Gen Con, or if you are in the LA area in August and September, she'll be making personal appearances at different game stores, Barnes and Nobles, and things
Oh,
like that.
awesome.
So she has one condition on what I'm about to tell you guys. She is the hardest autograph of the original Runaways to get. She's the hardest one.
Wow.
But she has said, if you buy copies of my game, then I will sign Runaways. She will sign Runaways memorabilia.
Whoa, nice.
But you got to buy a copy of the game.
There it is. Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. Oh, what I'm so fired up about this. I've seen a early edition of this. You showed me actually a couple of months ago, and I love the fact. I mean, just that little detail of, I don't know if you can see it here, but the player board with the amps going up to 11.
They go up to 11. Yep.
So brilliant, so brilliant. But yeah, that's those are the 2 big games I'm super excited about. Marcelo, anything else on the Devir front that we should know about?
Our October is going to be equally as insane as the summer. Our presence at Essen this year is going to be pretty bonkers. We've got two new games and 1 expansion coming out, which we have formally announced now. The White Castle Matcha, is an
Yes.
expansion for the White Castle that'll be coming out. That right now, everybody just is who's a fan of the White Castle is all over this one. It
Yeah.
adds a fourth action in each of the 3 rounds. It adds a new color of dice to the game itself.
Hmm.
So typical of Israel and Sheila when they design a game is it's not going to complicate the game and it's not going to draw out how long it takes the game to play, right? By the addition of this, it's like what they
Nice.
did with Red Cathedral Contractors. It added a fourth action, but it didn't complicate the game further.
Oh,
Uh, so
love it.
there's so that's coming. Then there's also Daitoshi, which is part of the Kemushi saga. And if you're unfamiliar with the Kemushi saga, it's one game world that's covered by a number of games within our catalog, like Silk and Bitoku and Bamboo and Yokai Sketch, and then Sand, which just came out last month, is the newest
Yes.
one in there. And so Daitoshi is just another part of that game world coming out later this year. It's basically a steampunk era of this particular game world that's coming out. And then we have a licensing agreement to publish in English Planta Nubo, which
Oh,
was a
nice. Oh,
big,
wow.
big deal at Essen last
Yeah.
year. And so we'll have the English version of that coming out in October.
Very cool. Wow. Lots of exciting stuff happening at Devir right now. That is
Yep.
fantastic. I love that. Folks in chat, y'all know how much of a big fan I am of White Castle and Red Cathedral. So very excited for these. Thank you for sharing, Marcelo. But folks, we're here to talk board games and baseball because that's what Major League Meeples is all about. We are board gamers first, but also baseball fans. Well, I guess 1 and 1A maybe. Maybe that's what it is. Marcel and I actually go way back, way back, and we're super excited. I'm super excited to have him here to be able to talk about all things baseball. Marcelo, the Dodgers. We're talking about how great they are, but we need to. I guess we should talk about the rest of the league. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sure.
Well, I mean, look, those are the Dodgers right there. We're 7.5 up on the Padres right now. That's pretty cool.
right where we belong.
Exactly. Now, looking folks, if you're joining us for the first time, well, this is obviously a Dodgers focus stream and podcast, but I want to shout out your teams as well, folks. If you root for a team, let us know. We're going to go down the standings here. We've got the Dodgers up 7.5 over the Padres, the Giants, the D-backs, and the Rockies. Marcelo, you may be going to game real soon, right?
I'm going to tonight's game against the Diamondbacks. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Yep.
Always good to see be at the at Blue Heaven is like as we call it.
Right.
Michelle and I went a couple of weeks ago. We went on May 4th, and it was a terrific game. That's the game that Glasdell pitched, and that's the one where your boy Max Muncy hit 3 home runs. We were at that
Yes,
game.
he did.
It was amazing. It was so awesome. Um, we have the Phillies up in the National League East. They're rocking the Braves. I don't know what's up with the Braves this year. What happened? We swept them, which was nice.
I think that they're just that maybe they're having chemistry issues because
Yeah,
goodness knows they've got all the bats that they need and
yeah,
they have solid pitching, but maybe it's just a chemistry issue right now.
mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll see if they can work that out. Our friend Bing says no need to mention my Cubbies. Hey, I'm okay with the Cubs. Let's see where are they at. They're a couple of games behind the Brewers. Now the Dodgers, we had problems with the Cubs, but that was very early in the year. I think things are going to be will turn around when the season rolls along here.
Honestly, those games in Chicago, I blame the weather. I
Ah,
do.
yeah,
I do. It was cold.
yep,
It was windy,
yeah,
right? I mean, like, and I had a friend who actually was at the one game that they did win. He was
okay,
at that game, and he's like, oh no, yeah, like the weather with compared to LA, the
yeah,
weather was not fun. So I think
yeah,
the weather may have been a contributing factor to that, but also you're right. It's early in the season, right? Look, I love the Dodgers. I bleed Dodger blue,
yes,
but every year through spring training, people are like, "Oh, Dodgers looking good," blah, blah. And I'm like, look, every team looks like they're going to win the World Series
yeah,
in spring training. I said every team looks good on paper. I said, but I'm a little more pragmatic about it when it comes to the beginning of the season,
yep,
right? Because it's like, all right, once the regular season starts, then it becomes a matter of like, okay, now does that chemistry work in actual play? And
right,
let's face it, it took us the first couple of weeks, took the Dodgers the first couple of weeks to get their sea legs
yeah.
and start winning.
Yeah, like I mean, it is a marathon, not a sprint, right? And
Right.
every single team is undefeated at the start of the season, but once you start, that's when things start working out. And I know with the Dodgers, there's been all kinds of stuff happening. Again, it's all centered around Ohtani. Of course, he's the center of the Dodger universe at this moment in time. But it's a team sport, folks, and it
Yep.
takes all the guys to get together and hopefully get your team to win. The Yankees are surprisingly up a couple of games. The Orioles. The Orioles. I mean, I thought they were the ones to beat. I still think they are, but the Yankees are pretty darn good these days.
You know what? Okay. Don't tell anybody.
Uh-oh.
But I secretly root for the Yankees in
Okay.
the American League. I
Okay.
do. I do.
Okay.
And the reason why I do that is because I want to see a Dodgers-Yankees World Series
I do.
again in my lifetime. I actually want to go to a Dodger-Yankees World Series in my lifetime.
Yes.
So,
Okay, Marcelo, since we're confessing things, I'm going to confess this as well. I also root for the Yankees.
yeah, right. Because we want to see that. We want to see that World Series.
We do. Yeah. And I have, I went to the original Yankee Stadium, the house that Ruth built, and that was such a treat. I went right, it was a couple of years before they tore it down. I went with a really good friend of mine, Big Ryan Green, rest in peace. We lost him a few years ago, but I always think about that as one of my favorite baseball memories. We sat in the right bleachers. It was so funny. We got to the game super early and went to, I forget the name of the bar. It's right across the street in the Bronx. I think it was Monty's or something. We met up a bunch of friends there. We had some beers, and the next thing you know, it was like the third inning. We're like, we should probably go to the game now. It's like,
right.
Okay. Yeah, so one of my all-time favorite memories
See,
there.
I'm jealous. I'm jealous because you actually got to go to the house that Ruth built. My first time in New York, a buddy of mine from Staten Island is taking me on this tour and of New York because I had time. I was there for Toy Fair, and
Uh-huh.
I had one day to actually do some sightseeing. So I did get to go Flatbush
Nice.
Avenue. I did get to see the former site of Ebbets Field,
Nice.
which is a mall now, and that's where I bought my Brooklyn Dodgers cap. There's a
Oh,
lids
cool.
there that sells Brooklyn Dodger cap, so I bought that there. But then we went to the Bronx, and as the train was rolling in, where you exit on the left was the demolition of the house that Ruth built, and on the right was New Yankee Stadium.
Oh.
And so like I mean I was just like like I was getting all verklempt
Yeah.
because I'm like they're taking apart brick by brick the house that Ruth
Oh,
built,
it's
right?
so brutal.
And then we take the tour of New Yankee Stadium, and I'm like, these are the most spoiled babies in the whole baseball universe with how state of the art everything in their locker room was.
Oh my God. Yeah. Wow. I still haven't been to the new Yankee Stadium. Hopefully one of these days. We'll see. I mean I get a kick out of. I'm sure I know you're the same way, Marcelo. Just going to different stadiums and being part of the atmosphere there and just the history of each stadium, every team. Like I know you can appreciate that as much as
Oh,
anyone.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully in 2 weeks, I'm going to be at Astra in St. Louis, which for those of you who don't know, Astra is a trade show that's an industry trade show. And it goes to this city every year. This year it's in St. Louis, so hopefully I have an opportunity to see a Cardinals game while I'm there.
Oh, that would be so cool. Goblin981, thank you for hanging out with us. They say, that's why I don't play sports. I'm undefeated at most of them. Yes, we are all undefeated, the ones we don't play. Bing says, Cubs were healthy then, not so much now. Yeah, and that's part of a long season, right? You're going to have those ups and downs. I mean, well, who'd we just lose for? Well, actually, Muncy is on the IL for 10
He's
days
on
now,
the AL
right?
for 10 days. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the nature of the sport. That's how it goes. We got the Cleveland Guardians out in the AL Central, up by a game over the Kansas City Royals. Wow, the White Sox are that bad. I didn't think they were last place. Yikes.
Yeah, that only tends to inspire more of their hate towards the Cubs. And you know what? And I want every Cub fan to know this. I do not appreciate that in the slightest bit. I don't
Aha.
think that anybody should hate on the Cubs. Not
I
only any,
agree. I
no
agree.
one should hate the Cubs.
I went to my first Cubs game ever to Wrigley Field last year, right before Gen Con. Michelle and I celebrated our anniversary by going to Chicago for a few days. And then
Yes.
she went home to work, and I went to Gen Con. And, dude, Wrigley Field was awesome. That was
Right?
awesome stadium.
I went to a game. Was it? Good grief! I think it was my only time there was in 2015, 2016. I think it was 2016. I
Mm-hmm.
went and saw a game in Wrigley, and I got to tell you, different stadiums, right? Like you talked about going to different stadiums in different places. Cubs fans are some of the nicest people I've ever
Agreed.
encountered. Absolutely
100%.
some of the nicest people.
Yeah.
Like I would never fear showing up in Dodger gear
Yeah.
at Wrigley Field,
Same.
right? Whether the Dodgers are playing or not, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like one time I went to a Dodgers Cubs game at home, right? And
Uh-huh.
there was a dude wearing a Cardinals jersey sitting at the front of the section, and the moment that he stood up, everybody in the section booed him.
I could totally see that happening at Dodger Stadium.
Yep.
It is what it is. I mean, you're right though about the Chicago fans. They were great. I actually went with some friends who live in Illinois and Indianapolis. Actually, we went together to the game, and the fans around us were great. I wasn't wearing my Dodger gear or anything, but I was rooting for Cody Bellinger. I mean, I still love the kid, you
Yes.
know. So
Yes.
yeah, it was fun to see. I was you know what I didn't expect, and I guess going to Dodger Stadium all my life, you expect stadiums to be a certain way. Getting to Wrigley Field, dude, it was like, oh my gosh, this feels so small.
It
Like
is.
I felt like I was on top of the players. It just felt so. I mean, it is like a much smaller stadium. Like it was like 35,000, I think, versus
Mhm.
55. I mean, that's a huge difference.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of it, right? I mean, yes, does it feel cramped? And but you do, even if you're in the nosebleeds, you feel close to
Yep.
the players,
Yep.
right? You can Dodger Stadium. If you're way at the nosebleeds, which I love sitting in upper deck. I
Same.
absolutely love sitting in upper deck at Dodger Stadium. You can't really hear the grunts and groans, from down on the field. But at Wrigley, I can't imagine there's anywhere at Wrigley where you don't hear the actual sounds of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I think that's yeah, you know what, you're so right. I was just thinking about that. How not only could I felt like I was on top of the action, but I could like literally hear a lot of the action, which was great, which you don't get at Dodger Stadium if you're up in the top deck. Again, nothing wrong. I love the top deck as well. Bing says Busch Stadium is great, enjoy it. And Bing also says next time you go, let me know. I got some good spots near the field for some good eats. Ooh, always down for
Oh,
that.
I would be happy to take all of those recommendations. I'm going to be in downtown at the convention center. So,
Nice, nice. Goblin says friendly booing is okay as long as it doesn't get violent like British football. Yeah, again, I'm perfectly fine with some good-natured ribbing or talking trash or whatever. But once you start, come on, let's not get violent, folks. That's ridiculous.
agreed.
Yeah. So finally at the AL West, we got the Mariners up in first place, and I mean, no surprise here, the Los Angeles I can't even say it. Los Angeles Angels, no,
No, no, no.
they're in Anaheim. Come on.
They're the Anaheim Angels. They're not even in the same county.
I know. Thank you. I was okay with the California Angels when we were kids, Marcelo. I was fine with that. The second, and I was happy for their success as the Anaheim Angels. But the second they switch over to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim or whatever they're called, I'm like, no, don't do that. You're in Orange
I
County.
I was just talking about this yesterday, and because the brewery that I like to hang out at, I want to shout out Laverne Brewing Company in Laverne, California,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Love to hang out there, and the 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 married couple owners. The wife is a diehard Dodger fan. The husband is a diehard Angels fan. And we were
Oh,
talking about this yesterday that as somebody asked me, like, when did you ever like the Angels? And I'm like, absolutely. I loved the Angels when Gene Autry owned the team,
yes.
right?
Yeah,
Rod Carew, Reggie Jackson, right? Like we had, they were great when they were the California Angels. And as much of a Disney fan as I am, Disney should have never bought the team because that ruined everything.
yeah,
When they became the Anaheim Angels, and then they had the Angels in the outfield logo with the crazy wing on it and
yeah.
whatever, right? That was when everything turned. And I have been telling Angel fans since the Ohtani signing, don't hate the Dodgers. Hate Artie Moreno.
Exactly. Yep.
Artie Moreno let him go. Artie Moreno, I think, was convinced Ohtani wasn't going to walk. And I'm like, well, then if you're that out of touch with your team, you should probably not be the owner of it anymore.
Yeah, I agree 100%. This is why I knew I was gonna love having you on Marcelo, because I know we're like totally in sync with all these takes. It's maybe I don't know. Maybe I should bring on someone that I totally disagree with, but no, I totally agree. Artie Moreno. I mean, the Angels fans. Otani is loyal. He was. I honestly believe if they would have come correct, he would have stayed with the Angels. I mean, it's still Southern California, but
Yep.
I mean, let's be honest. If you have a choice between the Angels and the Dodgers, there really is no choice. Come on.
It's the difference between a team that's won one World Series and a team that's won 6 World Series.
Exactly. And a team that's constantly in the postseason, constantly is excellent, and they're a team that's never hasn't been in the postseason in I don't know how long, a
I
decade.
believe it's 20 years now since they or postseason. I'm not sure. I don't know the number, but I know it's been 20 years since they won a World Series.
Okay, yeah, it was. So long ago. Bing says Rizzo's near Wrigley. Previous player, very very good food and atmosphere. Okay, good to know. Bing, thank you.
Nice.
Also, Bing says I was at it was Wrigley versus D-backs. Fan below made an amazing diving catch. Everyone cheered until he stood up in White Sox gear, turned to boo. I love that. Oh, that's
Oh,
great. That is fantastic. Um, More about the Dodgers. We're gonna I'm gonna switch gears for just a second here, friends. This is something I really want to do with this podcast, video cast. Is we love the game of baseball. We're talking about your teams. We're talking about our teams, but I also want to talk about the history of baseball as well. So every time we do this show, I want to do this this day in baseball history, and because Marcelo's the guest, of course I'm going to pick a Dodger related item. So
thank you.
Marcelo, we're going to take a look at this gentleman here, which I know you know, Mr. Don
Yeah.
Sutton.
Sutton. Yep.
In this day in let's see, what year is it? 1979. Wait, let me make sure I got this right. My 1979. No. Ah, here it is. Yes, this date, 1979. Don Sutton passed Don Drysdale for the most wins in Dodgers history. He went 8 innings against the Cincinnati Reds, defeating him 6-4 at Riverfront Stadium. And Sutton's final totals for his career: 233 wins for the Dodgers, and Drysdale was at 209. So here's some pictures and video of Sutton. I know you remember Don Sutton back in the day.
Absolutely. I saw plenty of games that he pitched when I was a kid. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And then so we have Sutton at 233, Drysdale at 209. So he surpassed him by a couple of dozen there. And of course, I know we all know who's in second place currently right now in the Dodgers wins. It is our good friend, not good friend, our someone we were talking about before the podcast started, Clayton Kershaw. He's at 210 right now, so he's one up on Drysdale.
Yep.
But I'm assuming Clayton's gonna do it in a couple of years. I mean, pitching's so different nowadays, right?
It is, right? The beauty of baseball is how it always evolves, the back and forth between the eras where it favors the hitters and the eras where it favors the pitchers. Like I'll give you a good example of this. I am not a fan of the rule change disallowing the shift, right? Because
Oh
like
yeah.
again, so a lot of people don't realize this. The shift didn't exist until Ted Williams. And at that point, it was called the Williams shift. And
Mm-hmm.
after he retired, it wasn't used all that much defensively against left-handed hitters, right? And then you started seeing it more and more often. And I'm like, you know what? Why are you punishing the defense for being smarter about how they're playing the game,
Yes,
right?
I
You,
agree.
the hitters should evolve, especially the lefties. The lefties should evolve to work around the shift.
Yep.
There are plenty of hitters who know how to go to hit the opposite side.
Yeah, I agree. And that's, again, like you were saying, it's punishing the defense for playing smart. And I agree with that one. There's Don Sutton, that was his Hall of Fame induction there. You know, what do you think about, like, okay, so we have some other big changes. Of course, the big one years ago was the NL adopting the designated hitter rule. I was, for me, I was okay with it only because I never liked the whole NL was DH, AL was not, or was DH, and then NL was non DH. I wanted to be consistent between leagues. I wanted both of them, either both no DH or both DH. What do you think, Marcelo?
Well, okay. So originally, well, first, the designated hitter rule didn't happen until 1972 for everybody who did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
So pitchers were hitters in both leagues up to that point. Uh, I I was more old school, going like, real pitchers actually can pick up a bat too,
Yep.
right? And again, Otani is proving that pitchers can still hit and still be pitchers. But in the 90s and in the early 2000s, as pitchers, their arm, the longevity of their arm, right, the value of their arm and their overall arm health, right, has really played a role in it. Makes sense to have a designated hitter now, so that the
Yes.
pitchers don't have to hit; they can just focus on pitching, right?
Yeah.
But then there's Otani.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember, when Clayton Kershaw, he was a halfway decent hitter.
He was a good hitter. Yep.
Yeah. I don't think Don Sutton was, but anyways, that's this day in baseball history, folks. Don Sutton, in honor of Marcelo being here. That was May 20th, 1979. But moving right along, I mean, continuing this thread, Marcelo. other changes, the base size. Like now, we've seen an uptick in stolen bases, right? And boy, oh boy, that game on Thursday, Ellie De La Cruz
That kid.
just blows me away. Like Michelle and I were watching, we're like, if he gets a walk or a single, you might as well just call it a triple because he's going to be
Yeah.
stealing those bases. Like,
He's
oh my
going to end up
gosh,
on third. Yep. He's going to end up
he's
on third.
incredible. But having said that, the Dodgers really shut him down the next 3 games.
They did. Oh yeah. Yesterday he went 0 for 4.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to see. Now, we also saw some interviews, Ellie talking about how much he loves LA, and Michelle and I joking, like, he's going to join the Dodgers.
He's going to end up here. He's going to end up here. Yep.
I mean, it's a nice feeling rooting for a team that is going to make moves. Like, it's got to be tough to be on. I mean, we've seen in other franchises and also different eras of Dodger baseball, actually, where there may be free agents out there or maybe trades that can happen that don't happen because of management or ownership. So that's got to be frustrating. Thankfully, we're not living through that right now, Marcelo.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, we've waited so long to have. We've always just been like just there, like just close to there, right? But going to the end of the season though, my fear is always this, right? And I think that I'm not saying this to be derogatory in any way about San Diego Padres fans, but you guys need to be realistic. Your team's not going to get to the World Series. Your team's only job is to make sure that the Dodgers don't get to the World Series.
Exactly.
Yep. That's what your team is built for. Recognize that, right? And you will have a healthy relationship with your team.
Exactly. I love Lucho AB. He's talking L.A. De La Cruz. Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect, Lucha. Lucho also says, definitely not a fan of the shift ban either. Shift is such a great way to get in the batter's head and just makes sense defensively. Agreed, 100%. Absolutely. Right?
Don't punish the defense for playing smart baseball.
Yeah. It totally, yeah. Bing was not a DH fan, but I do want both leagues to be the same. That was my thing. Like, I'm old school too. I do prefer when the pitchers had to take the bat in their hands because again, that's that level of strategy too. The manager, like, oh, do I take out my pitcher at this certain point of the game and bring in a pinch hitter or not?
Pinch hitter, yeah.
Yeah, that was always brutal. Now, but I just want to be consistent, so I'm happy it's consistent. I wanted to shift gears a little bit, Marcelo. I love Dave Roberts. I think he's the perfect coach for this team, but he takes a lot of lumps, from the fans, the media for certain decisions. I don't know. You want to give your hot take on Doc?
I might be on the other side of that.
Oh no! Okay.
I'm not saying that I'm a hater.
Okay.
I'm not saying I'm a hater because if you look at all the Dodger managers, and I mean you go all the way back to Walter Alston, right? Who was the manager of the Dodgers when they were last in Brooklyn, the last decade they were in Brooklyn, all the way into, up to the first 12 years they were in Los Angeles, 14 years they were in Los Angeles. I mean, that's who Tommy Lasorda replaced, yep. Right? And the skipper's my guy, so don't get me wrong, right? I like Doc because if you look at his numbers, if you look at just his performance numbers, right? And a lot of people are like, well, numbers this, numbers that. These numbers matter. Fully 1/3 of the number of times they have been in the postseason have been while he was their manager. 1/3 of every time the Dodgers have been in the postseason, and that goes all the way back to like the late 1800s when they were the bridegrooms. Or the Superbas, right? Or the Robins and the Trolley Dodgers and things like that. 1/3 of the amount of times they've been in the postseason have been because of Doc, right? So you can't discredit what he's brought to the team. He clearly also knows how to manage the chemistry of the team.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, with that said, my issues are his loyalty to Clayton Kershaw is problematic. Right? It is problematic because why does Kershaw get to start in the postseason when you know you're going to lose the game? Yeah. The fans know we're going to lose that game. The fans almost always know that if Kershaw is pitching game one of any postseason game, we're going to lose it, right? Yeah. And so that's the one issue, right? Postseason, Kershaw should just take a seat in the bullpen, right? Maybe pitch 1, 2, 3 innings tops, in a long relief, or a short relief, stint, whatever, right? But like, bro, Like, come on, know your weakness
Yeah.
and then do it for the team.
Yeah.
My other thing about Doc is I think that he leaves the starters in too long when they're starting to throw donuts. Right? It's like
Yeah.
don't you got a bullpen, right?
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to take a guy out at like the fourth inning if he's not doing it, or the fifth inning, right?
Yeah.
I get it. You want to get 5 to 7 out of the starters, but sometimes I think he leaves the pitchers in too long.
Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing I can say to refute any of that. And again, I'm gonna agree. I do agree with everything you're saying, Marcel. I think the thing I want to focus in on, what I 100% agree on, is Doc managing egos in the clubhouse. And I mean, the Dodgers. I mean, when you're signing $100 million contracts like nothing, there's some big egos in that locker room, right?
Yep.
And I liken it to like Phil Jackson managing Rodman, Jordan, and Scottie Pippen back in the day, and then
Yeah.
Shaq and Kobe later. He was able to manage all those big personalities without them killing each other for many championships. And now
Right.
Doc, I think he's the right man to do the job. For as far, I mean, they have a $1 billion player on the team. How do you manage around that? And you saw him the other day. There was that great scene where he was talking to Ohtani in the dugout, saying, "Hey, here's what next at bat, do whatever." He's still coaching, and I love that
Right.
about him. But I can't. The whole Kershaw thing, I agree 100%. I cannot refute that. It's so brutal too to see Kershaw struggle like he has in the postseason, and that's the thing that's the knock on his legacy, right? The postseason woes.
Yep.
But yeah, I can't refute any of that. I still love Doc, but yeah, it gets
I
ugly in the postseason sometimes.
it does, and like I said, I'm not a hater. I just have I think that my issues is when you see a pitcher is struggling, right? It's not hard to get one or two guys up and in the bullpen and get them ready for, if this goes south.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think of Doc is obviously of this generation that puts a lot of value, and the Dodgers do a lot of value in analytics, sabermetrics, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think about managers taking out pitchers who are working on like no hitters? And yes, their pitch count is getting up there, but they're throwing no hits over like 7 innings. I think we recently saw that with the Braves. They took out someone that had reached around 90 odd pitches, and they took him out after 7 innings, even though he had no hits. What do you think? Is that a good thing? The way baseball's evolved, Marcelo?
I No, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't, because stats and sabermetrics and all of that have made players more valuable, especially pitchers in that respect, or at least what their strengths and weaknesses are. It doesn't change the fact that baseball players are still some of the most superstitious people in the entire world,
yeah, right.
right? And what would you rather have in your legacy as a manager? What would you rather have? Would you rather have he pitched a no hitter and everyone's going to remember that? And while that's not on you, right? That's legendary. But you taking him out while he's pitching a no hitter, no one's going to forget that.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly said. Perfectly said. Uh, Bang was asking, quarter into the season, who's better, Dodger or Cub?
I still think it's too early to tell.
I think
I
so
do.
too.
I think that's a better question. That's a better question at the All-Star break.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Yamamoto, he's pitching tonight, right?
He is pitching tonight.
Oh,
Yeah.
I would love to go see him pitch. I think he's amazing. And when I remember when we signed Ohtani, my family has a group text chain going, and the second we got the news, we're like $700 million to Ohtani, blah blah blah, and then we were all excited, of course. But then when Yamamoto signed, it was like, OMG, like what just happened? Did we actually get Yamamoto? Like we couldn't believe it. It was, I still can't believe it that we got Ohtani and Yamamoto. Like how awesome is that?
Well, Yamamoto, that required Otani, and I'm
Yeah,
glad that it happened.
yeah, absolutely. These Dodgers, man, I mean, we're so fired up. I don't know. What do you? I mean, I don't want to jinx anything, but come on, Marcelo. We're built for the long run here. Not just this
Yeah.
year, but I mean, we got Ohtani for 10 years, and we've got
Yeah,
Yamamoto locked in.
and Mookie for 8 more.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. speaking of Mookie, what do you think of him moving to short? I have feelings about this.
I do too, and I think it's a season too soon.
Yeah,
He's made a lot of errors this season,
yeah,
a lot of errors, and while he's still a phenomenal player, right? Like errors at shortstop cost you runs,
yep,
and so I think maybe it's a season too soon, right? I think they should have given who is it, Mickey?
yeah,
Is right?
yeah,
Or at least balance it out, right? Balance it out. I think part of the reason why Mookie moved over is because, and this is where I have issues with Gavin Lux.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I love the kid, right?
Yeah.
But I think that maybe his return to second base this season was a bit premature.
Agreed. Agreed. I mean, you love to have that lefty bat in the lineup, and Lux. I mean, he can hit. We all know he can hit, but fielding, man, yeah. Spring training, you knew like within the first couple of games of spring training, like, oh man, they shut it down real quick. And that's for my money. That's why Mookie Betts, I think, is the MVP of the league right now. He is struggling at shortstop, but what other player can go from right field to second to shortstop, which he hasn't played since high school, right? At the
Right,
major league level. And yes, he's committed errors, but I mean, he hasn't been like horrible. I mean, he's had his moments, but he's still producing, at the top of the lineup. He just hit a, leadoff homer the other day. Um,
right,
and I love the fact he could have easily said, nah, you're paying me all this money. I'm staying at second. I'm starting right field. No, he took the challenge. And, according to all reports, he's there early every day taking grounders at
yep,
short. And, Miguel's, help him out. I do love Miggy, man. I really wish we
right,
could find a way to keep him in the lineup. I mean, he has been batting a lot better this season, but again, it's early. Well, we'll see.
yep.
Risto Pistols actually, how many seasons baseball players have in their locker? 10 more or less. Seasons baseball players.
It honestly, I think it just depends on the player and
Yeah.
how healthy they stay. I mean, baseball's a game where a great player can play into their, well, it used to be into their 40s, or for that matter, even 50s, right? I
Yeah.
think Phil Niekro, for the Atlanta Braves, played until he was 55 years old.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
so
Wow.
uh, with these players, they can easily play into their 30s. I mean, what, the end of Otani's contract, he's going to be 32?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We have him in his prime. It's so amazing. It's so awesome. Um, I was just thinking, yeah, Phil Niekro, he was a knuckleballer. So knuckleballers can, they sort of last in the league a lot longer, but we don't see too many knuckleballers anymore, which is sort of a bummer. I always like seeing them.
That kid on the Reds,
Oh,
that first game,
that's right.
right? Did you
Yeah.
see that knuckleball? It had 1.5 turns.
Yeah. It's
Like,
crazy.
how do you do that?
it's magical. Bing says it's great to see the Japanese influx, Otani, Suzuki, etc. Says, yeah, I'm all for it. The Dodgers have always been ahead of the curve when it comes to international players, right? I mean, throughout our history, I mean, Nomo and all those great
Oh,
players,
yeah.
they've always had a really good international scouting division, Japanese, Dominican, and so forth. So yeah, I agree. I love seeing all the. Again, you want the best players in the world in the majors, and we have them right now. AB True, hi. Most players who reach the bigs don't play long enough to get vested in the retirement plan. Oh, that's interesting. That's right. I mean, it is tough, like seeing the players come in and out. I mean, the Dodgers do it all the time, just like every other team. You have one guy come in and then another gets sent down. Um, any surprises so far this year, Marcel, that you feel as far as the Dodgers like sending certain players down or calling certain players up?
The most recent one, Outman, not surprised at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Not surprised at all. I
He
don't
struggled.
know. I don't know if that kid needs to get with. I mean, he's great in center field.
Yeah,
His glove
yeah,
is great, right? He's
totally.
great in center field, but his bat, it just turned to garbage.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and I and, and I know that this, again, talking jinxes, right? Last year when he was hot, every game that he was hot, his parents were in the stands.
oh,
And there were a lot of people who were like, that's his jinx.
yeah,
Because if they're not there, then he might not perform. And I don't know what's going on with him this year. If his family is just, now that they're like, okay, honeymoon's over, we're going back to San Francisco,
yeah,
which is where he's from, right? That I don't know. So no, I was not surprised that he got sent down.
yeah.
I was not surprised he got sent down. In fact, I love him so much. Chris Taylor, I think, is the
Oh,
next one to get the axe.
I
And I
know.
don't want to see him go because when we get after the All-Star break, he's Captain Clutch.
Yeah, right. And right now, he hasn't been bad. I mean, he's been awful, Marcel.
Right?
Like terrible. Like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And apparently, it was like a swing change that he tried to implement, and it turned to garbage. And he's trying to go back to what he was originally doing. But again, he's not a young guy anymore. He's been around for a while, and I feel like part of it may be Father Time catching up. You know.
Well, and like I said, a dude that's been in the show for as long as he has, you don't send him down.
Right.
You cut him loose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's gonna be like, well, I'm gonna invoke my free agency because you're not gonna send me down. Just send me somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't want to see him go because I really do. Like when you need him, right? When you need him,
Yeah.
that's where he performs.
Yeah. Yeah. On the big stage, he's not afraid of the moment, right? And that's the thing, with the younger players that, yeah, we love him now, but come October, you do want
Right.
those, grizzled veterans that aren't going to be afraid of, being on, the biggest stage. Andy Pages, man, he has been incredible so far, right? I love this
Man,
kid.
that kid. Yeah, but
Yeah,
see, my fear is that he's this year's Outman.
exactly.
And what's he gonna look like next year?
Yeah, next year. And again, we've already seen him struggle at times so far. But what I've liked so far, Marcelo, is even though he's had his moments where he's gotten little mini slumps and stuff, he's come right back out of it. I mean, he definitely can hit at this level, but baseball's, again, we're talking about a marathon. Can he do it consistently throughout?
Right.
And then we've got October, because the Dodgers are playing in October and hopefully November. But then, like you said, next year, is he this year's Outman? That's the thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. What's he gonna look like? What's he gonna look like when we get to spring training next year? What's he gonna look like if he makes the 40 man,
Yeah.
right? Or to get in there? And what's he gonna look like next year?
Yeah. Always the questions we're thinking of, folks. Folks, let us know what teams you're rooting for. Corthy was talking about asking about a knuckleball, and Bing was saying, "Hey, check out the videos on YouTube about how to throw a knuckleball. What it looks like. It's incredible what major league pitchers can do with a knuckleball. They don't throw it often anymore, but it's a dying art form, I guess.
Well, also there's a great documentary on Netflix, the same production company that did Fastball, which, by the way, every baseball fan should watch Fastball.
Yes.
Everybody should watch Fastball. When the physicist breaks down how the human eye sees a fastball coming at you, right? And he breaks it down on the chalkboard. Like, I was blown away by that. The same production company did a second one called Knuckleball, and that's exactly what we talk about: the history of the knuckleball, the great knuckleball pitchers, why it's not common anymore, that kind of stuff.
Nice. Okay, folks, there's your movie recommendation for this episode. Knuckleball, now on Netflix. Movies. I mean, the one for me, we're gonna move into. We weren't planning on talking about this, Marcel, but you brought up movies. I mean, I just rewatched for I don't know how many times, but Field of Dreams. I mean, folks, if you don't cry at the end of that movie, I don't know what's wrong with you. It's just everything about that is like pitch perfect. I love that movie. Any favorites come off the top of your head, Marcel? Baseball movies?
Man, I hate to put it this way. I really do, because I'm a diehard Dodger fan, but 61.
Oh, yeah.
61 is my favorite baseball movie ever. The story of Roger Maris,
yeah.
and that was Billy Crystal's directorial debut. That movie is perfect,
Yeah.
right? That movie is so good. The Yankees made Billy Crystal an honorary player that season.
Did they really? Oh,
yeah, they did. They
That's
brought him out to
awesome.
throw out the first pitch of the first game of the season. He had his own jersey. He got to sit in the dugout through the whole game. Yeah, 61. That the Roger Maris' story is amazing.
Agreed. And like Barry Pepper was so like he actually looked like Roger
Looked
Maris,
like
right?
him. Yeah, I know.
Oh, and what's cool is in that movie, I didn't know that Maris had started losing his hair because of all this stress. Like I knew the story, but I didn't know that. I'm just like, oh gosh, it's so crazy. And I forget I think it's Thomas Jane played Mickey Mantle. He was really
Mickey
good
Mantle.
too.
He was fantastic,
Yeah.
right? Playing through the injuries and being Mickey Mantle, like the especially when Mickey Mantle tells Roger Maris the story of how he hurt his knee in that accident, that collision with Joe DiMaggio,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The way he delivers those lines of like he knew that one incident ruined his career, but he still pushed through to be one of the greatest players ever.
Yeah. Oh, So, oh man, chills. Like I haven't seen it in a couple of years, but that movie, oh,
I love
so
that
good.
movie.
Yeah, I
Yep.
do too. Oh my gosh, so good.
So when we were all so for the fans, for you guys watching right now, Ruel and I attended a trade show in Louisville, Kentucky earlier this year,
That's right.
called Gamma Expo. And the benefit of being in Louisville, Kentucky is that the convention center that we were at was literally 3 blocks from the Louisville Slugger baseball bat factory.
Yes.
And the museum, that Roger Maris bat that's on display there, right?
Yeah.
That one, the Ted Williams bat, the DiMaggio 56 game hitting streak bat, like all
Yeah.
of that stuff was amazing. But
It
the
was.
Maris bat, I didn't expect to see the Roger Maris bat,
Yeah.
and that was amazing.
Yeah. That was so cool. You know, I have my little Louisville Slugger bat right here. The little mini,
Yeah.
the freebie that they give at the end of the tour. Oh,
Yep.
I loved going to that museum, Marcelo. I could have spent all day there, but you know, we were both working. But it was neat to be able to, you know, get out from work and go see something. That's actually something I try to do, Marcelo. I don't know if you do. Actually, I'm sure you do. Anytime you know, travel for a convention or work or whatever, I'll like seek out if they have like a minor league team, and if it's during the season,
Absolutely.
I'll just, you know, try to catch a game. I was in Vegas for the World Series of Board Gaming last September, and it was the tail end of the season. I got to go see the Las Vegas
The
Aviators.
Aviators, yeah.
Yeah, nice stadium. And I know Gen Con this year, they got the Indianapolis Indians in
Indians.
town this year, right?
Yep. Yep.
So,
And well, I mean, you've seen the picture of my baseball cap collection,
yes.
right?
Yeah,
And so half of those are minor league teams.
I love that.
Yeah,
I
half
love
of my
that.
collection is minor teams. I love, especially with the shows that we go to consistently, either consumer shows or trade shows, because I love the Columbus Clippers, which is Columbus, Ohio, is where Origins is.
Yes.
I love the Indianapolis Indians, right? In fact, I love the Indianapolis Indians so much, even though they're a Pirates affiliate.
Mm-hmm.
I love it so much. I have my own jersey.
Oh, what? You
I,
got a
I
jersey?
I have an Indians jersey with my
Nice.
name on it and a number on the back. So yeah, I
Amazing.
love those. That Victory Field is a beautiful field to go see a game at.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. So
I,
I
yeah.
doing that is so much fun.
It is, and you're right. That stadium, and I didn't know this, but it was built by the same architect that did Camden Yards, so it has
Mhm.
the similar, you know, the bricks and the classic look. The Victory Field was amazing, and
Yep.
I will be going there this year as well during Gen Con. We got to go to at least one game when we're out there.
Yeah, I want to go to a game.
Yeah.
Obviously, our nighttime schedules,
Yeah,
right? You know, we've always got events that we need to go to, but I try to set aside at least one of those nights to go to an Indians game.
same. And Rick was talking about Moneyball. I also enjoyed Moneyball. I thought that was a good movie.
Yeah.
Now I had read the book first, John Feinstein's book. I think it's John Feinstein did Moneyball, and there was a lot of differences in the book and the movie, but solid movie. Bang was talking about Major League. I forgot about Major League.
Can't forget about Major League, man.
Yeah, Wild Thing.
Just a bit outside.
I love that they got Bob Euchre to do that too. That's like perfect.
Everything,
right?
every line in that movie is quotable. It's an incredible film.
Yeah, it's so good. And Charlie Sheen, man. I mean, that was. I think that's like prime Charlie Sheen right there. He was
Yep.
fantastic in that.
Yep.
But so many great movies. Let me see. Rick was talking about 61. The David Justice scene is awesome. Yes, agreed. In Moneyball, a really good scene. I was surprised. I run hot and cold on what's his name, Brad Pitt. Sometimes I really like him and stuff. So other side, but I thought he was great in Moneyball.
Yep.
Rick
I also
says, fun fact: my auntie, who retired 5 years ago, worked as a secretary in the front office for 30 years, and was Billy Bean's secretary. No way!
Oh, that's
amazing.
awesome.
Well, that is so cool. Thanks for sharing, Rick.
That is awesome.
Goblin asks, "What's that Tom Hanks movie? There's no crying in base." Oh, another good.
Field of Dream. Or I'm sorry, A League of Their Own.
League of Their
A League of
Own.
Their Own. Oh, that's my number 2.
Oh,
That's
I
my
love
number
that.
2.
Love that movie.
Yeah.
So good.
I could watch that movie forever.
Same. Gina Davis rocked it in that movie. She was
Yep.
awesome. Fun fact, so we were talking about earlier, I was at Wrigley Field last year for a Cubs game. They actually had some of the actual players from the girls. I forget what's the girls American Baseball League or whatever it's called.
Yep. The All-American, All-American Girls Baseball League or something like that. Yep.
They had like 2 surviving members there throughout the
Oh,
first pitch. It was chills, man.
that's
chills up my spine.
awesome.
So good. Amy Trude, well, final comment, then we'll get out of here. Correction: MLB players qualify for 2.5% of max pension payout every 45 is service time. Max payout is 10 years. Of course, merit players don't make it to the big show. Yeah, it's like any professional sport. Like you watch it on TV and you see the best couple of hundred players. There's thousands and tens of thousands of players that don't make it. And that's the reality of it.
So I want to point on that note. I want to point out something real quick, because you're wearing a Rancho Quakes cap,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the Rancho Quakes. And if you're not familiar with who they are, the Rancho Quakes are the single A affiliate of the Los Angeles Dodgers. I've been going to Quakes games since the mid '90s, and you're not wrong. Even the minor league players struggle financially. And one of the things that I love the most about the Rancho Quakes is the boosters there. Because a lot of people think minor league boosters, all they do is they collect the 50-50 and they're selling raffle tickets and all that kinds of stuff like that. What a lot of people don't realize about the Rancho Quakes boosters, a lot of these are older empty nesters, and they have been fans of the team for decades. In fact, their children have worked at that stadium. Their grandchildren have worked at that stadium if they're not really a stadium, but they take in the players during the teams. The players, they foster the players during their minor league season. They give them a place to live. They give them a family to care for them. They give them, home cooked meals, like that kind of stuff. Like that, I'm sure other teams do this. But one of my most favorite things about the Rancho Quakes is the boosters and how they take care of the minor league players.
That is so true. That's a great note to end the show on. Thank you for that, Marcelo. Yes, it is. It really is like a family experience there, and I always love the family friendly vibe of the stadium. But it truly is when the boosters are, they put up their, open up their homes to these young players chasing their dreams, and that's what it's all about. Marcelo, before we get out of here, any final comments? Can you let people know word of anything about Devir or anything you want to talk about before we get out of here?
You know what? If you're going to just plan to spend some time with Devir Games at Gen Con, because you're going to get a chance to play Rock Hard 1977. You're going to get a chance to buy it, and you get your chance to meet a legit, for real rock star who's a talented game designer and a 4-time Jeopardy champion. Don't pass up an opportunity to meet Jackie Fox.
Yes. Oh, I cannot wait. That's going to be so awesome. Folks, thank you for tuning in. This is a new podcast that we're doing here. Major League Meeples, we want to thank you for sharing our passion for baseball and board games. Again, I want to thank my friend Marcelo Figueroa for joining me today. Marcelo, have fun at the game, and go Dodgers, man.
That's right. Go Dodgers.